Turkish officials have reportedly obtained recordings proving how Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed. The Post reports American officials are aware of the audio and video footage. It's purported to show a Saudi security team killing Khashoggi and inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Now, some senators want to block the sale of U.S. weapons to Saudi Arabia. President Trump rejected that move yesterday.
As to whether or not we should stop $110 billion from being spent in this country, knowing they have 4 or 5 alternatives, 2 very good alternatives, that would not be acceptable to me.
CBS News State Department reporter Kylie Atwood joins us now from Washington. Kylie, so Turkish intelligence says they have proof of a Saudi security team that killed Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, but the president has yet to directly blame Saudi Arabia for Khashoggi's disappearance. It is striking that the president, during those comments that he made in the Oval Office, talked about the arms deal that some senators are now trying to block as rationale as to why he doesn't want to rock the boat. In other words, American values for American dollars seems to be American dollars wins out in the president's mind, at least as of right now.
Yeah, and critics would say that the president is already taking some pressure off of the kingdom in Saudi Arabia, saying that even if they did do this, we're still going to continue doing business with them. Senators on the Hill think that this should be a reason to stop those commitments that we have made to Saudi Arabia. It's $110 billion that the Saudis are buying in terms of U.S. military equipment. So that is a lot of money, and the president is arguing, listen, I don't want to jeopardize the business that's happening between the U.S. companies and Saudi Arabia because other countries are going to come in and fill that void, like China and Russia. But at this point, the question is, well, if it is proven that Saudi Arabia is to fault, did actually murder Jamal Khashoggi, shouldn't this commitment, this military agreement, this sale be in jeopardy? And that's what senators are arguing. But the White House has yet to say that that would be the case.
Well, and U.S. lawmakers are not falling in line. They, in fact, have come out forcefully on this subject. Senators Bob Corker, Chris Murphy, and Cory Gardner had harsh words for Saudi Arabia. Here's some of what they said yesterday.
If they killed this journalist, the relationship will be severely altered and will change much of the dynamic, candidly, as to how we're going about things in the Middle East.
This is an extraordinary case of a U.S. resident being kidnapped and likely murdered by a U.S. ally. President Trump's unwillingness to set out any consequences or even a threat of consequences essentially tells the Saudis that we're okay with this kind of conduct and behavior.
I think it's a pretty glaring red line that we're about to see. You have people on one side of this line, like Vladimir Putin, who has killed people around the globe. We need to know whether or not this instance falls on what side of that line.
Kylie, the president went out of his way to assert that Khashoggi was not a U.S. citizen. So put this into perspective. How serious an offense would this be if the Saudis were responsible? And also help us understand this disconnect between the president and members of the Foreign Relations Committee.
Yeah, so it's really a disconnect in terms of how they want to approach this situation. The Trump administration is saying we need to get the facts here. Yes, the Turks say that they have evidence, and as you read earlier, the Washington Post is reporting that they have both video and audio of this murder happening. But the U.S. does not yet claim that they believe that that is the case. They haven't seen everything lined up that completely proves the allegations that the Turks are making here. So yesterday, the State Department said, whoa, 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 let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not let all of these rumors dominate the conversation before we talk about the repercussions that the Saudis will potentially see. On the other side of the coin, you have senators on the Hill saying, let's put the threats out there ahead of what we know happened so that the Saudis know that they can't do this, that they can't kill journalists who say bad things about the leadership in Saudi Arabia and get away with with it. So you have two different kind of tactics here, and we're going to have to see if the White House gets ahead and starts putting out any threats before a conclusion is come to in this investigation.
And, you know, it's a good point. I mean, this is bipartisan. These are Republicans and Democrats that are saying maybe we should put this deal on hold. And a couple of things about that deal. The president yesterday talking about it as if it's an accomplishment of his administration. That deal, at least the handshake to sell these weapons, was done under the Obama administration. There is no formal agreement in place, as far as I understand. It's just like a memorandum of intent to do so. That wouldn't happen for many months, if not years, into the future. And to my thinking, if you're supposedly the world's greatest negotiator, and I am not, wouldn't you use that as leverage to ask the Saudis what is going on? And I guess it's difficult, Kylie. As you know, the president's first trip abroad was to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it was. I would also point out, however, that there are other tactics that the administration can use. It has at its disposal to try and push back against Saudi Arabia. So one of the things that they could potentially do would be to sanction individuals who directed this possible killing of Jamal Khashoggi or were even aware of that. And that could include the Crown Prince himself. So that is something that there's an investigation that The Hill has asked the administration to go through to determine who knew about this and when they knew about it, so that if there are possible links to the Crown Prince, he would be sanctioned himself. But we haven't heard the White House come out and publicly talk about that, which is really important. They are not thrusting a tough line ahead of any findings that are certain yet.
All right. Kylie Atwood, thank you so much. We appreciate it.